We're delighted now to be joined by John Gosden on TalkSport 2 today. John, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
We have to start with Enable, obviously, who's aiming to win her third King George this afternoon. She's been an absolute superstar for so long now. How's she been since her run in the Eclipse, and is she ready and raring to go?
I think she's come on for the Eclipse. I made it very clear to everyone that she was finding it difficult to get to her racing fitness, certainly as a 6-year-old mare now, rather than a young race filly. But I'm very happy with her since the Eclipse, and she got a little tired in the last furlong there. Race run at that intensity and pace at that level, that's not surprising. She's worked well since on the grass and on the synthetical weathers, and I think she should be spot on for the King George.
Fantastic. With only 4 runners in the race, it's likely to be an interesting race from a tactical point of view. How do you see it panning out?
Well, I think, you can have ideas what the other 3 horses are going to do, what kind of pace they're going to go. I'm going to leave Frankie with a completely blank canvas as to how he wants to ride the race. You're much better just adapting to what happens, and you can't really make great plans in a 4-horse field. Strangely enough, in the bigger the field, the more consistently you know what's going to happen in terms of pace and such like. But I'll leave it to Frankie. He knows the filly well, and she herself is a very professional race mare now. They've both got a good racing brain. So between them, I leave it to them. My job's training. It's luckily for the filly, it's not my job to ride.
Absolutely. And would you say that compared to the quality she's faced in her previous 2 victories in the past, would you say this contest is perhaps a slightly easier one for her?
Well, I'd like to think that, but it's not the case, because you have an English Epsom Derby winner, an Irish Derby winner, and in Japan, her main opposition. He's the winner of obviously the Jubbmont International last year, Group 1 winner. He's effective round Ascot at the 1.5 mile. He won at the Royal Meeting there last year, doing handstands very comfortably. So he sets a very high standard. Put it this way, probably the reason no one else has come into the race from France or other stables in England, because of the sheer quality of that quartet.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you, provided all goes to plan this afternoon, is she likely to head to the Yorkshire Oaks again before all roads lead into the Arc?
Well, I'm always a believer in one race at a time. But to answer your question, if she comes out of the race in good order, we would look towards York again. Whether that would be the Jubbmont International or the Oaks in the Ebor meeting, I don't know. She'd be entered in both, and then try and use that as a springboard towards the Arc. She's raced over 6 years. She was only 1 run as a 2-year-old. She was very busy as a 3-year-old. She won about 4 or 5 Group 1s. And actually, as a 4-year-old, she only ran 3 times, which was to win the Arc and the Breeders' Cup in Kentucky. And last year, she only ran 4 times. So she hasn't been over-raced, put it that way.
Absolutely. We must talk about Stradivarius next week, who'll bid for his 4th Goodwood Cup on Tuesday at the Glorious Meeting. How impressed were you by his fabulous victory at Ascot?
Well, when we were driving there past Heathrow on the M25 to Ascot, we nearly all aquaplaned into each other. There was so much water pouring down the M25, so I thought, woof, he's not going to like this. He seemed to float over the top of it rather than going into the mud. So, look, he was very impressive there. And he's been in great form since. There's one sort of fly in the ointment for him, is that a 3-year-old who won the Irish Derby the other day is in the race, smart horse Santiago, and we have to give him a massive 15 pounds on the weight per age scale. So that's going to be quite a tall order for Stradivarius, but I haven't told him yet, so hopefully he won't read the programme and know the weight difference.
Absolutely. And at Goodwood next week, we're going to see the first crowds allowed back since the resumption. Do you think racing needs crowds to come back properly before long so that prize money doesn't suffer even more and racing can get back on its feet?
I think the question's slightly deeper in that, obviously under DCMS rules, we're allowed, soccer and everything behind closed doors with no audience. The advantage to racing is that we're in huge open spaces. We're actually not on seats in a stadium, and we're not in enclosed space at all, like a factory or anything like that, or an office. We are in big open spaces. I mean, they're going to trial it on the top of the downs of at Goodwood, where you look out over the English Channel and a brisk sea breeze. So you couldn't be really in a healthier spot and doing the social distancing. And if we can bring it back in a very biosecure, well-controlled manner, then it makes sense. But it's got to be a tentative step by step. And there's no doubt that if we can develop that, it's a very good thing for all sports. But you're going to have to go carefully.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And back to today, you've got a few more runners at Ascot. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a little update on Saika, Ashasi and Saar, but all of whom run this afternoon.
Well, Ashasi is sort of sneaking in the bottom of the handicap. So if he handles the ground, he'll go very well. Saar, if they do talk of a little bit of rain, there's no one going to get wet wearing a hat there, that's for sure, because there's not going to be many people there. But there's a bit of rain. Saar should handle that well. Saika, his father did handle it. He might be better on a faster surface, but we hope they all put up a good account of themselves.
Excellent. And back to Goodwood, you've got Nazif entered in the Group 1 Nassau Stakes. Is that the plan for her at the moment?
That's the plan at the moment. She'll also be in the Prix Rothschild at Deauville the following Sunday. And then we have Enbihar coming along on the Saturday when the crowd's allowed, there's some people allowed to turn up in their socially distanced areas. And that's Enbihar in the Lily Langtree, which she won the same day last year.
Excellent. One horse we're yet to see this season so far is Logician. Do you think we'll see him before the end of the campaign?
We're very hopeful he'll be running in September, October. He had a wonderful year last year, winning a St. Leger, and then a good 6 weeks afterwards, he was in light exercise, only trotting. He suddenly had a nasty illness called peritonitis, which struck him very hard, and the vets did brilliantly. So he was critically ill for quite some time, but he's back with us, and he's happy and full of himself, so we're very hopeful of an autumn campaign.
Brilliant. I mean, he's a horse with a fantastic middle distance record so far. What were the forerunners this year in the King George and a kind of lack of middle distance horses? Do you think the sport needs to do something about that glut of middle distance horses, or do you think this unorthodox season is partly the reason that there is kind of a lack of them this season?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, actually, that obviously we haven't been able to run in April and May, so with the 3-year-olds it wasn't easy for them to develop through. The fact that Aidan won both the Derby and the Oaks, who would be one of those who would normally go for a King George, he's decided to send his older brigade. That's another factor. And you've touched on it, that there's a little bit of a preponderance to always be breeding for speed, but we all like the middle distance, the mile and a quarter, mile and a half, and then the cup races. And, of course, it's quite difficult breeding for them because you often wind up with a lot of slow horses. So you can understand why the commercial market's a little speedier, but I think we need to look to it. Breeders understand that and not wind up with a paucity of highly talented middle distance horses.
Absolutely. And finally, John, we saw Darrain yesterday win a fantastic effort at Newmarket. He's got a very exciting future. He's a horse who possesses a lot of speed by the look of it, plus a lot of class. Is the plan to step him up to group company before long?
Well, it will be along the road, I hope. We might just go step at a time. He was a horse that was held up. He missed April and May because there was no racing, which has rather affected his development. But having said that, he's a very promising horse, and I could see him coming right to the fore in September and then again into the autumn, and hopefully make a lovely 4-year-old, maybe run in the King George next year. How about that?
That would be fantastic. John, thank you very much indeed.
All right. Bye now.